Welcome to the Church of Mabus radio show. It's Friday night, 7:06 p.m. Central. Listen to United Public Radio, 107.7 FM New Orleans. We got Professor Wham here with us tonight. And we just had some crazy tornado stuff. So I was like trying to make backup in case I got ejected. But we seem to be okay. I even had to call Joe and to ask him to start it just in case. But there have been a lot of warnings and things like that, and I didn't want to miss this interview. I've been very excited about it. We got Ron Morehead here with us. His new book's Bigfoot Unveiled, Scientific Answers to Bigfoot Mysteries, and forward by David Polides. And it's great to have you here, Ron.
Thank you. Good to be here with you.
And I know you've been on... Yeah, you've been on a while back one time, and it's good to have you back. I'm someone that is an experiencer and Wham too of different phenomenon. Mine's a lot of weird UFO type stuff, like seeing craft over homes and even some beings that were different many times with witnesses. So we're pretty open. My co-host Jay thinks Bigfoot's physical only and like, the diehard, physical only, rah, rah, rah. But I kind of lean towards, I don't know if paranormal's the word, but there's definitely some weirdness that's just weird that we don't seem to understand. And that's what I like about you getting into all this stuff with your Quantum Bigfoot book and this. You're not afraid to tackle those type subjects in the face of, I've had people tell me they're going to beat me up just because I thought Bigfoot was paranormal online years ago. It's like, God. But if you could tell us a little bit about your approach to that when it comes to their abilities and some of the weirder stuff.
Well, I don't think there has to be a real separation between the two different camps. Some people say they're flesh and blood only, but actually nothing's flesh and blood only. We're all made out of energy, frequency, and vibration. We have energy going through us. All forms of life do. And sure, they're flesh and blood when they're in our density. But can they get out of our density? I think they can. I think I've got a scientific answer to how they do that. So we can get into that a little bit later, but it gets kind of deep into some of the quantum physics that I talk about, which I enjoy talking about. And for those who don't know, just in case you don't know, I'm responsible for the Sierra Sounds recording them. I've encountered these things 50 years ago and been looking for answers ever since then.
Definitely. And tell us some of your thoughts on their cloaking ability, what that could be, because that's one of the most interesting things. And most people think of predator cloaking.
Sure. Well, let's get to the basics. Energy and matter are interchangeable. Matter and energy are interchangeable. You can change matter into energy. And that's a Einstein equation, but Paul Dirac, 1933, won the Nobel Prize for antimatter. Antimatter is the direct exchange between matter and energy. That was established firmly physically in CERN in 2012 when the Hadron Collider collided when it came into energy at the time. So that was a big deal, which most people don't even remember it or think about it. But they had two particles collide and created energy. You can sense energy, but you can't see it. You can see matter, but you can't see energy unless you have a different eye spectrum. So my theory on it is that they can somehow change their matter into energy through sound frequency. And I think that's possibly done through their vocal mechanism. They have a frequency range which is way out and above what we can do as humans. And that's been established by the work that I've had done with Professor Curran and Scott Nelson and some other specialists. So if they can create the frequency to change their matter into energy, they would appear to be not there. They wouldn't appear. However, you might see them poking out of it, going through the fourth dimension of time. I don't know. But that's my theory, and that's in my new book, how that all fits together. A little more elaborate than that, but if they go out of our frequency, out of our density, which is third dimension, and of course, most people know there's a lot more dimensions than just the three we live in. And why we're here is a good thing we'd like to talk about too, and what we're supposed to do while we're here. And these things are here. And I mean, I've encountered them more than once, several times in the Sierra Mountains of California, 8 miles in wilderness and 8,400 feet in elevation. And it's really imposing area to get to. Nobody else back there messing with you. Professor Curlin, he established that, I've said all this before, but maybe somebody hadn't heard it. He established the sounds are outside the human range, inside the human range, below and above the human range, all over the spectrum. And then had a sound person also say that humans can't make the frequencies that these things can make. And yet you still don't know how high they can go or how low they can go, because we've never tried to record that with infrasound recording or ultrasound recording devices. Didn't have any idea back in the 70s when we were dealing with these things so close that they were as unique as they are, that I've kind of come across by my studies in 50 years of doing it. So they're a little bit of both. You can say they're paranormal, but to me, paranormal is just anything that says it's paranormal. It's answerable by the math in quantum physics. So quantum physics will answer a lot of the woo-woo and the paranormal stuff that people have, trying to explain how things happen. And we only see within the frequency of 430 and 770 terahertz. That's our light's frequency. That's light frequency. That's all we see. Things are outside that frequency. A lot of things are outside that. You would be surprised at how much is around us right now if you could see it just here. Where it's out of our density. It's out of our three-dimensional environment. So when they are in our three-dimensional environment, like the ones we interact with, they have to eat, they procreate, they group, they live with our rules. You can shoot them then, but a lot of people are trying to do that. But they can also step out of it, I think, through the energy matter exchange. Does that answer your question?
Yes, definitely. I was just one of the reasons I do the show is when I was 17, I had testicular cancer, and I had to go through chemo and lost one at 17. Woke up, we're taking one and you got to go through chemo. I was like, well, that's nice. And I cried. And then I'm fine now. Of course, I'm almost 50. It was a long time ago, but several years later, my dad passed away. And for some reason, I started reading a lot of stuff, spiritual, whatever I can get my hands on, from the Bible front to back to, Druidism, shamanism, everything I can get my hands on, just trying to figure out, what in the hell's going on and what the heaven's going on, I better say. But basically, the experiences opened my senses, and I started to see a lot of different things, from UFOs over homes that seemed like they were there possibly because of me, which was a lot. I have PTSD from it. I don't think I've ever been taken. If so, I don't remember anything, but they were over homes with people saying, Jeffrey, they seem like you're attracting this here. And what people have gathered, I've talked to, is that suffering of losing, a testicle, and then my dad dying, that it opened up my senses. But one of my big experiences that I've had, one day here in Florida, I was in my home and I was like playing the Watchword Bible on TV or something, just to try to, if there's anything bad around, like a filter or something, playing the Bible or whatever, Psalms or something on a DVD or something. And something said, go outside and look, like a thought. And I went outside and looked towards my house, and I saw two people made of, I don't know if they're people, I don't know if that's the word, but they were made of light beings. And it was as if they were in my home and flew through the roof into the heavens. And I was completely sober, not even tobacco or weed or anything that day. And I've partied before and seen weird stuff in my younger days, but that time, nothing, not even drinking. And I wondered if it was a deceased loved one, or, I've had people say angels, aliens. I'm sure we could even tie Squatch into it if we want to. It could be anything. I still don't know what it was, but for some reason, I think maybe my dad, or angels. But that experience, nonetheless, opened me up that there's much more going on. I knew that already, but seeing that, just anytime I talk about it, I'm getting goosebumps right now. And I think a part of it is we are possibly those beings of light as well on some kind of level. And there's been experiences where I've stared into the heavens. It's been a while since this has happened, and I've seen those beings like in a quantum realm around the earth. And I think that's like a staging area, maybe where you go when you pass, like to the afterlife. And it's like, I don't know for sure. I say I don't know a lot, but I know what I saw. But that's what I kind of keep open to quantum physics, because you're definitely, that's it. You know? And seeing that's opened me up a lot. You know, seeing the beams of light.
Quantum physics is it's quite an amazing story. Quantum physics is just a little over 100 years old, you know, and we're based. Our brain is conditioned to accept Newtonian physics only, which is all things that you can measure and you can predict, and you can it's all physical. But it's not like that in the universe. Everything from the atom through the cosmos, according to Dr. Christopher Brer at West Texas A&M, is under the rules of quantum physics. So most people are looking for these things with those five senses that we have that our brain is conditioned with. And the brain's really there just to coordinate our body. You know, the etherical part of our brain is a separate issue. That's what can't die according to physics and according to religions too. You know, you're going to go somewhere when you die. Well, your body was going to die. Sure, it'll pass away. But that's not, you can't, energy, which we're all made of, cannot die. It just keeps going. So what's happening there? Who knows where we're going to go, what we're going to do. I got my theories, but a lot of people believe in multiple embodiments, which I do. I didn't used to. Well, I was raised religiously, so I knew scriptures. That's what caused my book, Quantum Bigfoot, because it kind of put spirituality and quantum physics on the same realm. Like according to Tesla, Nikola Tesla, he said, well, one man calls God, no one calls the laws of physics. Well, there. And then you got the Dr. Edgar Mitchell says it takes classical and quantum sciences together to have clear perception. So really, that's pretty remarkable. People should think about that a little bit and delve into the laws that really control all dimensions, not just the three we're in. But people tend to say, getting into your story a little bit and get into a lot of people's accounts of running into horrible things sometimes good things. Where you put your thoughts is what you're going to draw to you. So whatever we think about is what our mind is working with. And if you see something that don't make sense to you, your brain's going to fill in the blanks with what it does know. So I encourage people to just have an open mind when they're studying this stuff, because you'll never see, well, you might see, but quantum physics is not in the same boat as Newtonian physics. However, you have to have both for clear perception. There.
And what's some of the levitation stuff? Because that's I've heard some stuff like that with Bigfoot, but how does that tie in, levitation?
Well, if they can control energy and matter, they probably have the ability. Of course, levitation is not new. That's the monks have been doing that. In fact, they still do that, I believe, with sound. I got a chapter of that in my new book on levitation. But the one I saw when I went to the Samurai Cry, and then I recorded and streaking down through the trees, and it just like it was almost floating. It's going so fast, but it was so fast. And it was floating, going down to what we think was Atlas and the mother down below. And I've heard a lot of people say that they've witnessed that floating look. And I got a story about a guy in my book, I think it is, who levitated several times in front of a lot of people. But you can do that if you can connect with the energy that's really inside of your ethereal body, which is consciousness. It's all about consciousness and becoming aware of who we are as human beings. In my opinion, we underestimate who we are. We have our pineal gland, which is inside of our brain, which I think is a receptor. That's the third eye, the eye of Horus, that the Egyptians drew so much. And then you've got that connecting to the heart muscle down below. But the heart's not just a muscle; it's a brain too. It's got brain to it. That has to be in coherence with your conditioned brain up here. And the problem is, most of us, it's called a gut feeling, by the way, your heart. When you get that feeling in your heart that something's going on, you should go that way. But your brain analyzes and said, no, it makes more sense to go that way. So especially guys, we're that way. We want to go where we know it makes more sense, but we learn to listen to our heart, our gut feeling. That's generally the right way to go. And, so,
And
what you think about.
I know what are some of the, I know you share stories in your book, but what are some, if you would like to share a story with us, maybe a particular story that stands out? Is there one you'd like to share?
Well, probably the night I saw one when I recorded Samurai Cry, that was probably one of the most significant nights I had up there, because you see what made the sound, and that's something some people criticize. You don't see what did it, you don't know you don't know what made it. Like a tree structure or some of those things, you don't know if it happened with Boy Scouts hunting blind or if a Bigfoot did it, because it's not unusual to leave stick tracks and things like that just to have people follow it. So anyway,
It's when you saw one.
oh
And
yeah, that was. I actually interacted with one that night. They were chattering at me, and I got that recorded and put it on my second CD actually. And that was a phenomenal night. And it was just me and one other guy in camp, and it just started getting dusk. But we found out the next morning that these things had gotten to camp before we did. They left an offering for us up on top of the shelters and twisted off alder brush, which was fresh up on the shelter. Found a big track right out in front of the doorway, just to the right of the doorway going to the shelter. And Bill's dust cover from his rifle was laying inside of it, just tilted up. So it had made before he dropped his dust cover before we went in the shelter that night. And the shelter's just a log, a bunch of trees grew in a circle. We got a cable. We did. Johnson Brothers did it. But they leaned deadfall up against that, and then strapped it across between them, put deadfall on top, and then put plastic over that to rain out in the bad weather. And then over that, you put a bunch of alder brush on it. We'd done that earlier that year in '74. And it looks like a big beaver's nest, but those alders that we put up there were dried, and the two which we cut off and brought back with us, but they were fresh. And they were twisted off. They were probably close to 1.5 to 2 inches around. That would take some strength and flexible fingers for sure. That was my exciting.
that's definitely cool. It's a cool one, though, a good one. A friend of the show, Dennis Carroll, who's a former police officer and a minister, wrote this, and I want to get some feedback from you on it. It's like a paragraph. Let me read it. There is an old legend of folklore that supposedly explains the existence of Bigfoot. It is told that Cain and his descendants had a mark, which here is said to be the symbolism of a curse placed on them. They were outcast and shunned by the rest of humanity, and they therefore retreated deep into the forest to avoid any confrontation with humans of the earlier civilizations. The longer they stayed in the wild, the wilder they became, until they embraced this lifestyle, becoming and evolving into the Sasquatch that we know today. Mankind in all parts of the world knew of the existence of their wild brothers, but to this day, Bigfoot, sometimes kidnapping human women for breeding purposes, still avoids the presence of humanity. I don't know how true that is, of course. So this race of beings, holding to their need to distance themselves from their civilized brothers, have been so good at their desire to remain hidden that over time they became legends and myths, and due to this factor, they are still the recipients of the curse of Cain, the mark of Cain. And I know you did some Bible research. Do you think there's any truth to that they're like the part of that, the descendants of the flood that, might have lived and all that weird stuff?
Well, it could be, yeah. There's a definite possibility there. Of course, if you really want to get into the depth of the biblical scriptures, you got to get all the way back into cuneiform texts of the Sumerian tablets, which is, yeah.
It gets complex.
That gets very deep into the two brothers and what they did. And one of them stayed here and one of them didn't. What takes place in about 6 chapters of Genesis takes hundreds of thousands of years in the cuneiform text. So things have been coming on this earth for a long, long, long time. Could they be? Yes, they could be. I think I write about that in my Walton Bigfoot book. I'm not sure, but how that could be. There could be a descendant of the Nephilim. However, They also have been, I believe, crossbreeding with Native American indigenous people. That would make more of them more human-like than others. And I think that's what excuse me, the Patterson film represents is one that's been diluted down further. The tracks look very similar to humans, just bigger. And our tracks up there were big, but they weren't as arched. They didn't have the arch in them, that just a small arch. So I think some of them are just, and I've been all over the world with this subject. And what you see in Nepal, what you see in these different countries are just different. So I think they're not all the same, all these things they call Bigfoot. Different aliens have done different things to different species on this planet. And there's quite a hybridization plan going on. So we're hybrids too, if you really want to get into it.
Yeah, I know you have a chapter on hybridization. Is that what the native situation? And then I know in the thing I just read, it mentioned something like that, but it's definitely fascinating. And what are some more of the native things that you found? I know there's so many things, but what are some that you found in your native with the research with that?
Well, I haven't found any natives yet that don't agree that they're out there. I've spoken with natives. I've been invited to some sweat lodges too with them. Excuse me, I'm going to get a drink of water from here in a minute.
Okay. Yeah, if you need to get it, go ahead. If you need to get it real quick.
I might have it right here. Oops.
Okay. Get the aqua.
Let's see if I got any in this jug here.
Go ahead. And there's one thing I was going to say while you're doing that. Me and Christina watched this cool movie called Dream Keeper, which is a native movie that came out in 2003. It's 2 parts. A lot of folklore of native in it that was really good. They actually had, I forget some of the actors, but I've seen them in Reservation Dogs, that show that's on Hulu about the natives and everything. And that show, Reservation Dogs, has a lot of cool Bigfoot things and native deer lady and stuff in it. But Dreamkeeper was 2 parts, about 3 hours, but had a lot of good folklore stories. And there was even some where Coyote's hanging out with the spider dude, the Icto or something like that, and they're getting up mischievous and stuff like that. But it has a lot of cool native stories. We watched that. It's on Peacock. But I need to see if you can find it on Blu-ray. It's actually good. I would love to see more things with native stories and folklore. I know I saw that Jim Henson Storytellers that has like Greek and different ones, but they didn't never get to do a native one. But there's so much good material. Just nobody probably wants to invest in it because they don't think it'll pay off or whatever. But that Dreamkeeper was some of the best native folklore I've ever seen in a movie. Like, it had some really good, lot of different stories from Lakota and things like that. And it was about the grandfather having to go to tell his stories at the powwow. And then there was a young native son that was kind of rebellious and didn't want to go and got taught lessons and stuff. So it was really good. But it's called Dreamkeeper, one word. But
I wanted to share this a little bit. This is from since we're talking about indigenous stuff, this is from the Mishomis book by Edward Benton Benai, who is one of the lore keepers of the Anishinaabe and the Ojibwe. And he has, this book, this right here, is what has been permitted to be shared with a public audience. And there's a story in here, or there are some accounts in here of the being that they refer to as Bugwe-Janini, or the wild man. And he is said to actually come in and out of the trees. He fades in and out of the trees. And according to, these are oral teachings that have been written down for the public. And just it says here, as he's introducing himself, he says, "I am Bugwe-Janini. Some of the people who follow you will know me as Sasquatch or Yeti, but they will seldom see me. It will be forbidden for them to look into my eyes. Some will not ever know of me. Many will not believe that I exist, but I am your oldest brother. I've been with you on your journey. I've been ahead of you at times and behind you at times. Sometimes I have watched you walk by. The Creator sent me here to guide and care for those who become lost. I am to watch over those who go into the forests, swamps, hills, and mountains to gather medicines and other things. If those who seek the medicine, roots, bark, and berries will ask me in a good way, if their thoughts are good and their concern is for others, I will help them to find the medicines they seek. I shall know their thoughts. Also, I am here to help those who choose to meditate, pray, and fast in the bugweji, or the wild and natural places. I am the caretaker of all those places. I am natural man. I am to be the different one, the different in all ways. I shall not build a home or gather in ordinary towns, nor will I ever assemble with my own kind in tribes or nations in large groups. I will make no trails, nor will I build canoes. I am to be alone in the quiet solitude and majesty of the natural world of the Creator. I shall know of man's presence, and I shall know his thoughts. But only the Anishinaabe shall know me. And then he goes on, talks, it's got like several pages of him having different types of conversations. But this isn't channeled stuff. This is actually considered to be oral tradition from the Anishinaabe Ojibwe. So
show us that again. Show us. It's called the Mishomis book. MISHOMIS book.
Yeah.
I saved a picture of it. I found a picture so I can get there.
It's a great book. I mean, it's fun in all kinds of ways. It's written kind of like, if adults were children, you know what I mean? It's very, but it's got a lot of stuff in it. When I remember when I first read it, it reminded me a lot of the indigenous people who originally lived where I live. There are a few still around, but they referred to themselves as, we call them Munsee, but they referred to themselves as Iliwi. And that term literally means we who listen only to the heart of the forest. And the principal relationship that they had with the forest was through this being that, for all intents and purposes, like looks like Bigfoot, you know what I mean? But they didn't call him that, obviously. But he was understood to be the energy or the entity that they made that they made a covenant with basically every year in order to maintain their relationship to the forest. So
that's nice. Thank you for reading that. That was good, really good. But I think my thinking is that they've been here long before Homo sapiens, before we were.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And we came in afterwards, and here we are. But we were a little different, and they are different. And
yeah.
It's just, I like it. I like what you said about the trees, because I got a theory about that. They can change their matter into energy, and it will go into trees. I got a whole chapter on that in my new book.
Yeah, I was reading.
So many reports about these things going into trees. And I've got two very, very credible people, I think, say they've actually saw that. And a lot of people say, well, they came out of this tree, or came from behind the tree. They'll say from behind the tree, they jumped out of the tree. Well, that's because they don't think anybody's going to think anything can jump from inside a tree out. So they say behind the tree. But it comes right down to it. They may have been coming out of the tree. And that's a thought. But I've had so many reports over the years about these things being seen when they're clear cutting trees, or when they're cutting trees down. And that's very common for them to be seen, because it stresses them out. I think they don't like that at all when people mess around with trees. They've got a thing with trees.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting you say that, because a lot of people don't know this about the Hudson Valley, but the Hudson Valley, except for two locations, distinct locations that were on private property, the entire Hudson Valley was clear cut like twice, and in the past 400 years, and then grew back. And what's interesting is that if you go back into the stories of like the original settlers, and and their interactions with indigenous people. And then the stuff that happened, the second cutting happened in the 19th century when they tried to spread industry into this area. And what's interesting is that there are numerous accounts of individuals who are settling who like run into these large creatures that then disappear, and then the sightings kind of go away for a while, and as the forest comes back, the people start encountering it again. And it's interesting there, because people who live here will tell you that they experience whatever this is as having a fundamental relationship with trees.
Yeah.
That there seems to be a symbiotic kind of thing there.
I truly believe that. Yeah, I was up in Portlock, Alaska on Discovery Channel a couple of years back, and they took me into this Portlock, Alaska, where it had been abandoned by the villagers in late 1940s. Mm-hmm. And the heirs of the family that were there then want to rehabilitate it, but they got ran off the 1940s from some kind of a Bigfoot type creature that was actually killing them, dismembering them. And
wow.
They'd seen it. So they want to know if it's safe to come back there and rehabilitate it, because they wanted to do their fishing village again. Well, when they took me in there by helicopter from Homer, Alaska, I circled it a lot and seen where they had clear cut it years and years ago. Of course, it had been growing up now, but you could tell the clear cut from the older timber that was there.
Right.
And they really timbered it a lot, and they were, from the pictures I saw, they was overfishing it too. I think they were just encroaching on this area where these things were, mm-hmm. and that was probably not welcome at all. And I'm sure if one of these 10, 15 foot tall things, and that's how big they say they were, come out of the tree screaming at them, they probably shot at it, and that would have really done it wrong. So yeah, they got to think about trees. And I think I told them, if you want to rehabilitate this place, just respect the property, respect the land, don't overdo things. And that was my suggestion. And I don't know, I don't think they've ever gotten back to it yet, because they're kind of said, you really want to come back in here, take about 2 or 3 of you and come back here and stay for a while. And you don't come out, well, they probably don't want you here.
Right. Well, the thing is you have to establish a relationship.
Absolutely.
With not only who these beings are, but with the land that they are the wardens of, and
right.
It's
right.
It's not just, it doesn't just belong to you,
Right. Well, like when the British came over here and they asked who this land belongs to, and the Native Americans said nobody. That's when they all just started taking it.
Right. It says, I guess we'll take it then.
Yeah, we'll take it. It's awesome. It's ours now. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, you just can't. Well, I'm not really a tree hugger, but I believe in preserving what we have and trying to do the best we can with this earth, because it's trying to change on us right now, and we need to all be aware of that we need to care. Basically, is what it amounts to, and this earth used to be in a 5th dimensional environment, I believe, and I think it's trying to change from its 3-dimensional density now and go back up. But it takes a lot of people thinking like we're thinking to the other realm, the other frequencies to get higher to make that happen. Because we're going to keep on to destroy this earth. Unfortunately, we're a warring species, and we just seem to want to kill things we don't understand. And have wars and things like that. And if you don't treat everything with love and compassion, you're not raising your own vibrational frequency. That's what you got to do, because we all got to pass out of this body one of these days and get into the ethereal realm. And once your soul goes on, your consciousness goes on, with that stuff, you want to be as high as you can. You want to be up there where you can graduate, really. Otherwise, you got to come back and do it again, because one way or the other, you got to learn your lesson. And the only reason we're here is to learn things and experience things. And if you don't respond to them properly with love and compassion, don't ever be a victim. A lot of people consider themselves a victim. A lot of people are angry all the time, or just sit around and watch soap operas. They can't get into positive nature of things, and I think you need to be in a positive nature of things to excel, and that's really what we got to do. And I wasn't raised believing in reincarnation or multiple embodiments, but I do now because it's the only thing that makes sense to me. And
Right.
it just does. And so I
Well,
talk about it a little bit.
I wasn't raised that way either. I just, Jeffrey knows this and I don't mind saying it, but, I just got back yesterday from a trip across the country to attend my father's funeral. And it's been an odd experience because I was raised in a very rigid religious upbringing, and everything you're saying is the conclusions that I've come to as well. But it was very strange to have all of that in me, and then sit in this service that for me was really narrow and devoid of a lot of that love and compassion. I mean, it turned out I was the one who talked to my stepmother, who took care of him in his last days, and found out that while she had been given pastoral counseling, I guess, of a type, no one had actually praised her service. No one had actually said to her how important it is to attend to the death of a loved one, and how much of an honor that is to do that. Mm. And like no one had said that to her. And I just thought to myself, all you have to do is understand the love in that process. And it shouldn't be hard, but that particular religion just doesn't. Everything's a tragedy. Everything is dark. Everything is everything is. I know it. I know it was. I felt sad actually about it. I didn't feel mad or angry or anything. So I was just happy I was able to say something good to her. But it was just, I'm glad that I'm glad that I'm in a better place with all that stuff than I used to be, and it's experiences like this, like paranormal experiences that sort of set me on my way, So yeah. If that was the point of them, then that's a good thing,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing what the religions teach people. I know I was raised in religious circles my whole life, and that's what I was doing. In fact, I was a board member of a huge church when I encountered these Bigfoot creatures. So the first thing I started doing was looking to the Bible, the ancient text, to see where our giants came from. Mm-hmm. But that didn't get me far enough. I had to dig deeper, and I started finding issues with who's in charge of the congregation, what's that going to teach, But it took me all the way back to Mesopotamia and the cuneiform text to find how this first written language known to man. And it's just amazing what you find out when you start digging and stuff. It changes your whole outlook on things.
Right.
Having a positive nature and a positive attitude is very important for your health too, while you're here. And like I said before, you seem to draw in what you think about more. So important to not be in the dark place.
Yeah.
I know I had a cousin die just a couple of days ago, and I talked to my other cousin, his sister, and her thing is religious, and I just had to find out if he'd been baptized, because otherwise he won't go to heaven, and stuff like that bothers me a little bit, because really, who baptized Christ anyway? Anybody know?
Well, John the Baptist did.
What do you say? I bless you in the name of you.
Well, no. I mean, what my understanding is that it was baptism is part of the Jewish tradition too. So it was probably a Jewish baptism is what it probably was.
I'm just kidding around. We don't need to get into all that religious stuff right now.
Yeah,
But
I
I'm
know.
just saying. I'm just saying that that's why I wrote my second book, The Quantum Bigfoot, because it brings science and spirituality together, I believe. But science, modern science, that's what quantum physics is. And what we're talking about right now is into quantum physics, because that's where our body doesn't die; it just goes on. And that's what I have to believe about my cousin. When I had my youngest daughter, 32 years old, died. And she just sweetheart, left me 3 grandchildren. But people wonder why I didn't. I believe that she's okay. Wherever she is, she's all right. She was a good person, and she believed in Christ. She believed because Christ is who you got to believe in. Jesus was man. Christ is the ethereal part, and that's why we're supposed to have Christ consciousness in us, and that's love, compassion, and God is love, and that's in the Bible, our current Bible, which is pretty much. I got to say, I don't like to say this, but a lot of our biblical texts are manipulated by the Parisian king or whoever's in charge at the time to control the masses. It's far away from St. Constantine, 325, when he got the Nicene Creed for the poor. I'm not a religion, I gotta get off that. You got the four Gospels, and that's all he would allow people to have until years later when they canonized some more. But that's because he needed control. He would tell people that's what you got to believe right there. And then in 1611, when King James got a hold of it, well, he had 36 scribes that just worked on it. And they all got their brain, their fixed paradigm brain, that it has to be filtered through all that. And I got Hebrew translators, and I found mistakes in the Hebrew Bible that was translated into our English Bible is just wrong. One little example is I used to hear the term that it's easier for a camel to go through an eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter heaven. You ever heard that one?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I found out the word for camel is spelled exactly the same way as it is for rope in the Hebrew. So rope and camel are the same word.
Right.
So it's misinterpreted, that's all. But there's some misinterpretations going on by probably good hearted people. I'm sure they all meant well, but they've all got their conditioned brain. That's why it's so important to get our heart connected in coherence with our brain, and that's what the meditation is about, by balancing all that so that everything works up to this brain so it thinks outside that dimensional box that they have. I encourage anybody to just look into it. That's all. You don't have to believe anything, but you don't look into it, you're not serving yourself. And I encourage researchers in this Bigfoot field to do the same thing, because they all just want to stick with what they think they know. And it's got to be a flesh and blood animal out there. It's just got to be. Don't confuse me with facts. Just I've got my mind made up. So anyway, I'm talking too much probably. Jeffrey, what are you doing?
Oh, I'm just listening. It's great, and from both of you, I'm enjoying it. I'm kind of curious. What's some of your thoughts about how they live? Do you think they live in like another reality completely, like in villages or like Land of the Lost with the Slee stack?
No,
how do you think that they're living?
They run in families. I know that they run in families, and but when they're in our third dimensional density, which that's what we're in right now, they have to abide by our three-dimensional laws. They can be shot. They do all that stuff. But when they step out of it, when they change the matter into energy, the time doesn't exist for them like it does with us. They don't have to eat anymore, but they do eat when they're here. They eat like we do. They're omnivorous. They don't have tribes or anything like that. They have just family groups. And when they have a child, when they do procreate, they have a child, I think they have to raise it in this density and teach the other part to it. I know we had a child up there, a little 9-inch track in the snow with an 18-inch track we followed. And anyway, I got the little voice recorded too on my second CD, and you hear it. But anyway, yeah, there's not really two sides of this thing. There's just two different ways to look at it, I guess. And combine the two, I think, is what we have to do in Bigfoot.
Well, I know a long time ago I interviewed David and in written form on Examiner so long ago, but I had a question about Bigfoot and somehow it was missing 411 in it, and he just told me he couldn't answer that question, had me omit it because he didn't want to bring that up with families who had missing people. And I understand that for sure. You know, that's a weird thing to bring up for someone, you know, missing a family member. But I know now he's kind of gone, you know, I wouldn't say balls to the wall, but you got missing 411 UFO connection, which is pretty like paranormal slap right in your face when I saw that. But and that one was, you know, it was good. And there's some stuff in it with Bruce Maccabee and his wife with the tree. I don't know if you saw it when it's in the tree cloaked, and the field, the school field. And there's a lot of weird stuff with that. And I know Stan Gordon for years has been talking about, you know, the UFO thing and Bigfoot type encounters. Does your mind ever dwell into the UFO territory with this? I'm just kind of curious where you kind of go with that.
Absolutely. That's, I think they've made them manipulate them, because I've established in this latest book of mine, Bigfoot Unveiled, that it's they have to have a human component to them. Something has given them language. That's just the way it is. That's a fact established by Dr. Arlen Curran, University of Wyoming, for a year-long study. He's an electrical engineer, showing there was no fabrication in the tapes that he studied. It represented one little clip of it represented an animal over 8 foot tall. And you got Scott Nelson, cryptolinguist, a two-time graduate of the Foreign Language Institute in Monterey, California. It was very well vetted by them. They sent me a letter, and a two-time graduate, he's more than able to transcribe an unknown language. In fact, that's one of the tests they give them. So have them listen to a language they never heard and transcribe it. If you can't translate it, then transcribe it, which means it has a language by the human definition of language. Then you run across Dr. Philip Lieberman, Brown University, who's a cognitive researcher, has been all his life. He teaches that. He passed away. Everybody's dying, but passed away, I guess. And he said that only humans have the vocal mechanism for language like we're speaking now. So that has to put it in the ballpark. You know? And I don't know why others don't hook up with that, because these are professors and they kind of been trained with all this stuff. And so I believe these things have a human component that takes them back into being created like we were by, well, possibly the Anunnaki, which were the fallen ones, I believe. And not all Anunnaki are fallen ones, though. There's a lot of good ones out there, innumerable amounts of them. But we're created in that image. It said, let's make man in our image. A lot of churches say that means body, soul, and spirit. Well, yeah, maybe it does, but that doesn't mean all it is. Made us in their image. Their image was ninth dimensional beings, and that's pretty high up there. We're all doomed for the 56th dimension. After this third, if we do everything we're supposed to. So I get carried away with all this because I love it.
Yeah, is your next book going to be called Bigfoot's UFO in Your Face? I'm kidding.
No, but, I didn't plan on writing this book, but there is a UFO connection, I think, and that UFO isn't just what I said, but it's in 1888 they got this out of Huffington Post in 2012 issue around Eureka, California. There was this small moon came down from the sky, witnessed by this rancher and a bunch of Native Americans, and 3 crazy bears jumped out of it. Well, that's the first account based on a record, anyway, of UFO and Bigfoot, possibly. The bears don't jump out of UFOs.
Yeah, that's pretty. If you look at native culture and their dances, and they've always, talked about the star people, the sky people. We've had Artie Clark on her book, The Sky People and Native American Star Encounters. So we know there's a connection there. If you mirror that with Bigfoot tribes, and if they're messing, like you say, we know they're messing with other energies and frequencies, then they probably may have some form of contact that's more advanced than, maybe even the natives, because they're on these different frequencies. So kind of look at it as like mirroring, learn from the natives that, the mirror to the Bigfoot may, actually be in contact with them and trade with them for all we know. We don't know, Definitely fast.
Yeah. Yeah, Native lore gets into that a lot. I want to get that book you got there, Professor.
Did you write it down?
I was looking for a pen. Oh, there it is. No, it's about to fall off my desk. No, I didn't write it down. Now I can. Please show me again.
Yeah. Well, you got.
I want the books you got.
What book are we talking about?
The
one you showed us.
Mishomas? It's Mishomas? Mishomas.
Mishomas. M-A-S. Okay. Mishomas book. Yeah, I like that. I like the one you had too, Jeffrey, earlier. That myths.
And yeah, I know Stan Gordon has a lot of weird UFO Bigfoot cases, and he's kept up with them for a while. So it's definitely not to rule it out. And there's that big one.
I saw a UFO up there at camp one time. That's when our Bigfoot stuff was going on. So I'm quite sure there's an interest in it. They do have abilities that we have not evolved into yet. Our telomeres have been cut. We don't live as long as we used to. We don't think as deep as we should, as deep as we can. We don't get ourselves connected like we should be connected. These things are connected. So if that's the case, they can probably levitate. They can move out of our density. They can do a lot of things. And yeah, I know David Pilates quite well. We spent a week together. 15 minutes just before the issue you were talking about a minute ago about the cloaking, when she was tree hunting, I'm in the 15 minutes before that where a light went by us. He was up at our camp when they filmed this. And the light happened 2 years prior, but they recreated it in that 15-minute section that I got just prior to the one you was talking about. But this anomaly, it has intelligence. It wasn't a round orb like has been up there before that we witnessed it. It was definitely an intelligence behind it. Just moved slowly like a rod of light through the trees. And we witnessed that for a while until it went out of sight. You don't know what it's going to do, so what do you put stuff like that, you know? What are you supposed to do with that? I mean, I was there with a little pea shooter 38 to screw the bears off with a bird shot in it. And that's the only thing I took up there because I'm not planning on shooting one of these things anyway. Bears come around camp quite a bit up there too. And they
Where
take
does
food.
Yeah, I keep thinking about bears and coming out of UFOs now. but what do you think about the missing 411 stuff? It seems like they want to pin a lot of that on Bigfoot. Do you think some of that's true, or is it a variety of things? I think it's a variety of things.
Could be. Yeah, I think it is true, a variety of things. I know what David thinks, but I'm not going to speak for David. He's kind of on the same realm I am with quantum physics. You can't not be on it once you look into it. It's just facts, you know. You don't see that because we're in a three-dimensional reality here, but it's all established by mathematics. And to disestablish it or say it's not true, you have to prove that by mathematics. And they have not been able to do that with a lot of things. And especially the matter energy transfer, that's fact. And it did prove that with CERN 2012. So it's just a matter of people looking into what's really going on. You know, and a bear can smell 20 times better than we can. I've seen that proven to me in Yosemite one time. This ranger had all these attacking bears. What they said, oh, the bear comes around here. He likes peaches. Well, that means they can read the labels. That was a joke, really, but no, he could smell through the can. He liked peaches. He would grab the peaches every time. So they have an olfactory sense that's way superior to ours. And our light frequency, I mentioned that before, what it is, you know, the frequency of hertz that we see, and that's all we see. And our hearing, you know, we don't hear infrasound or ultrasound, but they're out there. If people just realize what we don't have or that we don't access, it's out there, they might open their minds up a little more to this quantum physics thing, because everything works through the laws of quantum physics. It rides on the back of Newtonian physics.
I've had Kalani on before. He's been talking about the telepathic thing for a while. He's been around a long time. with some of the. I know he has the telepathic Bigfoot book or psychic Bigfoot. That's the name of it, and then Sasquatch people. But he's definitely been around for a good while, and some interesting stuff to learn from him with all that, with telepathy and how they communicate and things like that. And I know with some.
Do that.
Go ahead.
Frequency. It's all about frequency. They can entangle you. If they've got the frequency you're on, they can entangle you, and you think you're hearing voices. And you know, I've never had that happen that I know of because I'm very analytical. What happened to me that night in '74 when I saw one and was communicating with them or trying to, I was mimicking them. Had no idea that what importance language was and all that stuff, but they were answering me, coming back with something, and I fortunately got my tape recorder out of my saddlebag and was recording it. And that's what my second CD is. But it's just, they're more advanced than we are. Some of them have been diluted down from indigenous crossbreeding, I believe. And again, they're not all the same. So we're more humanized, which makes them dumb like us.
Yeah. I know on a lot of those shows, like These Haunted Woods, and I know a lot of that's probably not true, but some of it could be, they always show Bigfoot or Dogman trying to get into your trailer or something. Like, why do they care unless you're just on their territory? Why do they want in your house or your? That seems to be the go-to for a lot of these TV stories. It's, the Bigfoot's out there and he's trying to get in, and for some reason he can't get through a trailer door. Like,
no, he gets through. He's playing with them. He's playing with them. They will toy with you. We had them toy with us a lot up there. When we thought we was ahead of them, we thought we were going to trick them with all this stuff. Well, you don't trick them; they seem to stay ahead of you. And it just they know your vibe. They read you. I know we set up camera traps, couldn't get a picture. Only we were able to capture was their vocalizations. That was fortunate, but it got me on programs like this today, which gets me to spread the news of where I think it took me. Bigfoot Encounter was the minor part of where it's taken me in my journey through this hall. And it just gets into who we are as humans, how we don't respect ourselves as humans sometimes, but we are very, 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 very special. And we're here to learn, and we need to learn. And we learn through love and compassion, not through hate and discontent. So I had to say that.
It seems like some of the encounters or all of them could be shamanic encounters too, to where they're trying to maybe, boost your consciousness, give you a boost by these encounters on some level, like a shamanic kind of thing, an encounter initiation or something.
Well, again, I think whatever you put your mind into is what's going to come back to you. And it's just, that's the laws of physics. Nothing's real till it's observed. I mean, that's hard to get your head around. But you start studying this stuff and you realize that you're making this stuff from your own mind. Your conditioned brain is feeding it. And if you think about something long enough, you're going to have it happen. Good or bad.
So when you did Quantum Bigfoot, and it was kind of you pretty much in your face with Quantum, how were people's reactions? Did you have a lot of negative, or was it mostly positive? Because you seem to be one that's totally grabbed the bull by the horns on this one for sure.
Yeah, it's all positive. I mean, there's probably some negative out there, but I've not gotten any. Other than that, it's hard to read for some people, but it's not. Some people say they read it 3 or 4 times to capture what I'm trying to say, but I try to keep it in layman's terms. I consider myself a citizen scientist. I'm not a professor of theologian. I'm not that. But I'm a citizen science who looks into quantum physics and how things work. But it's just, I've sold a lot of them, I got to tell you that. And people are really giving me 5 stars on it. So I'm sure some people, like church people especially, just won't even hardly read it. It goes against what they've been brainwashed in. But it's all been, religions mostly are based on fear. I got to tell you that. It's just hell and damnation if you don't do certain things. And I was raised that way, but that just doesn't make sense to me. God is love. Why would he send some angel to genocide a whole nation? Or why would he, you hear about some horrible things that happen under the name of God, and yet you see where in the New Testament says God is love. Well, I seen George Carlin do who's a comedian who's passed away too, and he did an episode on God, how religious, like there's somebody at the herding sheep who's looking down on him with a beard and giving him all these things he wants them to do, and I'll do this for you and I'll do that for you. But I got this special place for you if you don't do these 10 things that I've commanded. And it's, you're going to burn, you're going to sweat, you're going to be whipped. It's all bad, bad, bad for eternity. But he loves you. He loves you.
That's exactly how I was taught. I was taught taught that you're like, when you're born, you're like pre-damned. And then you get baptized, and that undamns you, and then that means a whole. But it's still not enough. It's like you have to also. It's just it doesn't make any sense to me. I'm sorry, and it does not accord with my experience of reality or love or anything. It's just. It's like I'm so sad. I remember years ago. I was thinking, this is what I was thinking of during the service. I remember years ago, I was sitting with my father. I was in high school. I was sitting with my father and my brother, and we were watching something on PBS, public broadcasting service, and it was some kind of a show where they were talking about big philosophical topics. They were just discussing them. They had philosophers on and discussing them. And one of the topics was truth. They were discussing truth from a philosophical standpoint, talking about the different ways in which truth has been looked at and defined. And, it wasn't religious. So my dad, who always liked to get into arguments, and I didn't want to argue with him, he said something to the effect of to ask me and my brother, so what do you think the truth is? And I did not want to fight with him because he would go off on these rants, And so I just didn't say anything. And finally I said, well, I don't know, Dad, why don't you tell me what truth is? And I thought he would go into all this stuff about Jesus and stuff, Jesus died for your sins. But instead he just looked right at me and he said, everything is bad. That is literally what he said. Everything is bad. And I just remember looking at him and going, I'm so sorry. I mean, that just came out of my mouth, and that was like the end of the discussion. It was like, oh God. But that was the truth, I think, for him. I mean, I think he actually uttered what he thought was true for him.
Yeah. Everybody has their own truth, huh? I mean, what's truth?
Yeah, I guess. I guess.
I don't condemn anybody because everybody's free to choose whatever they want to choose. They want to get into this deeper. Yeah, if they don't, okay. It's their karma. When I say karma, you know what I mean? It's their life. They have to go through and respond to things. And I'm not about to tell somebody else what to do. I just tell them my experiences, and if they want to check into it, I encourage it, but I'm not about to tell them turn right or left. They need to listen to their heart and let their brain open up. It's like a parachute. It doesn't do you any good unless it opens. In fact, it might even hurt you, huh? And when you're green, you grow, and when you're ripe, you rot. That's why they're saying right there. So we are keep learning. When you stop learning, you're just going to rot away. I don't know. I'm still learning. I still learn things every day. If I learn it, I want to get another book.
Yeah, I know. I mean, was thinking of that, and I thought to myself, well, I hope he found some peace before he left. I don't.
Peace. He's got peace now.
Yeah, he does. I mean, now he knows. I mean, actually, because I believe you can kind of tune into people sometimes, and
Yes.
Actually, I think that I think he's doing fine. I think he's realizing kind of where he tripped up and what the actual source of his discomfiture was. And, and I woke up the other morning, it was like 2 days after the funeral. And I just woke up and I thought to myself, our karma's done.
Yeah.
My karma with him is done. It's done. Oh, okay. so we can go on and do whatever we need to do now. So I'm okay, actually. Everybody expects me to be really sad and everything, and it's like, I'm not. I'm not afraid of death. Death is not a. Well,
Right.
in his case, it was a liberation because of how sick he was. But it's like death is a change of worlds. It's not like it's not like an end. So
Right. It's not at all. And that's why I'm not afraid of death either. In fact, like Joe Rogan said the other night on something I heard, I don't listen to him hardly ever, but somebody sent me this. He's talking about Bigfoot. He couldn't believe that I was out there actually trying to communicate with these things outside our shelter. Those guys have been so scared, nobody would have been out there with a 10-foot tall gorilla yelling at you like that. Well, I'm not afraid. They had not ate us. They had not bothered us. They were just messing with us all the time up there. And you get to kind of complacent with it, but excited still, but complacent. And you want it to happen because you want to learn more. I was up there. The last time I really had some vocalizations happen was in 2011. And I was up there. And I had some chatter go on. Oh, they're here, And then I heard a whap right outside my little tent I'd set up. And they're here. I heard bipedal walking right out by the stove area where my tent was. And I started, because I'd heard the whap before. And I got outside at that time when it's still daylight and started talking to it, trying to get it to come out and let me see him, but they wouldn't let me see him. But I was just trying to communicate. I said, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going to shoot at you, nothing like that. I just want to know more about you. Nobody's up there but me now. That's a little bit of a thing to go through by yourself. But I'm not afraid. And fear is your only enemy in this life. Your fear is what the negative can feed on. And it does feed on it. Whether it's a dogman in Tennessee or whether it's a Bigfoot in California, if you fear them, they can scare the heck out of you. They feed on it. Anyway, there.
there.
We have Aaron Deese coming on about the Dogman, his book, Small Town Monsters. Is that something you've thought about? It's interesting. It's kind of hard to believe, though. I mean, I believe that exists on some level, but you don't really know. But it's a harder one to kind of grasp, that there's a werewolf out there, And I've interviewed Linda Godfrey and things like that. And, but what do you think about Dogman? Does that come up?
Yes, I was just out in Tennessee at a convention and went into Land Between the Lakes. And with a retired deputy in the church department, we've been investigating mysteries out there, and they've got a lot of dogman sightings. But he had actually saw one face to face. I believe that man 100%. He's just a genuine person. I talked to another man who's a genuine person, and these people are genuine when they're talking to me. And they took me out trying to get me to see a dogman because I said there are a lot here. There's a lot of them out here, but the Park Service don't tell you about those things because they don't want to mess up their jobs there, really, because they're closing off part of the parks, part of areas where these troublesome spots are. But yes, I believe a dogman can exist just as easy as a Bigfoot can exist. Aliens can mess with the genome of any species on this planet, and they do. There's no reason why they could. Actually, Skinwalker Ranch is a good example of that. That wolf they shot, I don't know if you ever read that story or not, but it's an energy form in a dog, a huge dog, wolf-like. Anyway, yes, I believe a dogman can exist. And they do. I've heard reports of them all the way up in above Ontario, Canada, all the way down into here and into Tennessee and Kentucky. A lot of sightings. I'm surprised when I come out from California when I moved out here 3 years ago. I had no idea that there was such a thing out here like that. There's a Bigfoot here too in these mountains west of me. So they say. I had a guy come here and just shaking one time at my home. He said, I got to see you. I said, I live several miles from you. I drive there. I want to talk to you. He had seen one of these things in the woods up here at one of these parks. And he didn't know what to do about it. He said, I never realized something like that could exist. And I said, well, I'll give you the best advice I could give him. But he's going to go back, want me to go back with him. And I couldn't leave at that time. But anyway, they're here. I believe they're here. Too many people are reporting them. A lot of strange things are happening nowadays that didn't happen 10, 20 years ago.
No, we've seen the dog man and Egyptian stuff with the Anubis and stuff like that. It's definitely, you know, something that's come up. And I know there's some town that I think Linda talked about where they get a lot of werewolf sightings or something like that, and the sheriff keeps up with them in a box or something weird. That Land of the Lakes, isn't there like kind of a weird story about a family being killed there, some kind of lore like that? I've seen something about it.
Yeah, I went to that spot. The deputy took me to that spot. And it's closed off now. You can't camp there anymore. It's all some of those campgrounds, all of them are closed down in certain areas. Still a big area. It was 170,000 square miles or acres, I guess it is. And it's just a huge area. He knows it like the back of his hand, and he took me to several spots where things had happened and where he actually saw one face to face.
And that story, they really believe a dog man killed the family, or they just don't know? That's what they think it is?
Supposedly they know, but they won't let that word out. I mean, that's what I'm hearing. I don't know. I have not researched it on first-hand basis, but I do believe this deputy, he's a veteran. He's retired now from the sheriff's department. But he's a veteran, 30-some odd years in the department. And he saw them face to face, and it just freaked him out. So he goes there quite often, and they want me to come back down there with him and investigate some more. So I might do something like that. My son lives not too far from there, so, and my grandson.
There was a video I saw about bat squatch. There's someone saying they saw a Bigfoot with wings. That's kind of, I mean, anything's possible, but that's a hard one to do. A Bigfoot with wings, anything's possible.
Everything's hard if you're going to stay in the density that we're in. You got to think like everything's possible. Nothing surprises me. Nothing. You can see an angel coming in right here. Well, probably are some right here right now. I can't see them with my limited vision. However, some people can see energy. I think that's unique. Cats can see better than we can. Cameras lens often will see better than we can. And that's why it's a camera. You can take a picture of nothing in the night, and then look at the camera's lens, and there'll be an orb in there. I had that happen to me at Montana Vortex one time up there with Joe Hauser. You've got orbs, all kinds of things happening up there in Montana. Interesting stuff. You know, this form of energy, what they're doing is all kind. If you knew, we don't know, because there's an innumerable amount of galaxies out there, innumerable amount of planets. It's unreasonable to even consider that there's been some with different life forms on it. And unfortunately, we think we're the King Kongs of all this stuff. Well, we are very special, but we're not the most advanced things as we should be. That's what we're headed for. We're headed to be more advanced than what we are. We have it in us. You just got to connect it all. I wish that all could be one with the Father as I am one with the Father. That's what Christ said. And a lot of the masters who people look to for answers taught love and compassion.
And I know you have a chapter about intervention. Is that that's Bigfoot? Bigfoot intervenes a lot and like different ways. We've heard stories about them with construction sites and things like that. You know, trying to stop this kind of thing and things like that.
Yeah, we hit on that a little earlier. They do intervene. They're not supposed to intervene. They're not supposed to mess with us because we have a karma to carry out. We have our decisions to make. Everybody does. That's why you don't tell somebody else what to do. You don't judge anybody else because they got their thing to figure out. They got to figure out how to do it right, which is love and compassion. I keep going back to that. But they will intervene at times. They mess with us up there. I don't think they were supposed to, but everything has a choice. Everything does. Aliens have a choice. You know, they were here before the flood. They were here after the deluge. They can do whatever they choose to do. Anybody can. So, yeah. Where I was going with that now. I'm an early bird yourself. This one mine about this time. It's all fun. I enjoy it.
And so, what do you have planned for the future with all this? So is there anything else you got planned that's coming up?
Actually, just a few more conventions this year, and then I'm thinking about not doing it anymore this year. I like to do what we're doing now. I'm in my home. I walk to my bedroom. I get sleep, go to bed. These traveling is really good. I'm in my 80s now, and I don't like traveling through these commercial airports. I used to have my own airplanes. I had two of them. And started flying in 1967. I fly everywhere I want to go on my own, but I got rid of that about 10 years ago, 13 years ago. I sold to a guy in Russia, one of them. The other one I sold to a guy in the valley, San Joaquin Valley. But I kind of miss flying my own plane. Then all of a sudden 9/11 happened, and you got to go through all this crap. Only good part about being as old as I am, you don't have to take your shoes off anymore. But, it's I don't plan. I'm going to go to New Jersey this at the end of this month, next weekend after this one, and I got to go to California after that, and Oregon, and probably to Washington too. And then I come back and go to somewhere else. I got all written down, but I've kind of just not taken any speaking engagements for next year yet. See what I want to do.
Definitely. And I guess you get a lot of encounter stories from different people all the time. Is that what they do, is like send you their encounters a lot after reading your books?
Yes, every day just about I have 2 or 3 come in and ask me something. I give the best advice I can without telling them what to do. Just this is what I believe, and let them go from there. But a lot of them hooked into my book, the Quantum Bigfoot, and this new one's going really good too. And when you read all that and see how I'm trying to put it together, you can get your head around it. It's not that difficult. Just get you Quantum Physics 101, some simple book. A couple of professors out of Santa Cruz, California, that put a book together called that Quantum something. Quantum Physics, I think it was one of the first books I read, and kind of in layman's terms, but they're professors, so it's hard to say layman. They still use words, but I've graduated a little bit since then, I think.
Definitely. And I'm trying to think, what's some of the weirdest stuff you've heard with some of this stuff? Is there any that stand out, some of the like really weird stuff?
Oh, well, gosh, everything's weird.
Everything is,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, everything's weird.
Mostly the people. I'm just kidding there too. I have to have fun with this. That's what life's about, is trying to keep things happy, I think. And as you can. But yeah, there's some weird things happen, but a lot of it is when I was flying on an airplane when the engine died and stuff like that. That's a little more weird. But I lived. So I've flown to Alaska all the way down to South America, and a diver too. So I got from the Hammerheads. I rode a Madurai. I've done a lot of things. Been in Siberia, up in the Himalayas. Anyway, the DNA shows these things. The DNA from Melba Ketchum shows these things as being human, at least mitochondrial human. Academia gave her a thumbs down because it's got human component. That means it has to be contaminated by humans. Somebody touched it. She says, no, nobody touched it. She went on with that. She lost her battle, but she's going to be exonerated, I think. But another geneticist, sponsored by the National Geographic, went up in the above Bhutan, the Himalayas, and some eDNA out of some bipedal tracks they found 17,000 feet. And she came back, this was in 2014, she came back and said it had a human mitochondrial. And big percentage of it. That's as far as I went. You never seen that televised or nothing, because the nuclear DNA, which is the male counterpart, is foreign. They don't know. And that's when they say that's impossible, because we know everything, right? We knew Roswell was a weather balloon, didn't we? Yeah, we know everything. The government knows everything. The government knows everything. They ain't going to tell us any more than they think they can handle. That's why they told us about the UFOs, because too many people have seen them, and Bigfoot's coming out more and more and more. The dogman's coming out more and more and more, and all these things are happening, and people are going to get woke up here before too long and see that the whole earth is trying to change right now.
Yeah, it is.
And I know if you keep up with some of the Skinwalker Ranch stuff, the main show, and then they have that spinoff show, that's gotten pretty weird. And I think there's phenomenon there, but the biggest thing that's gotten so weird about it is how many government spooks are on that show. There's like Bigelow, former security. There's a Colonel John Alexander. There's former CIA on the show. I forget the guy's, one dude's name, John something. But I saw that Beyond Skinwalker Ranch episode where they had that Chris Bledsoe on summoning stuff with the two CIA spooks there and Colonel John Alexander. So they're definitely up to something with that weirdness. Have you been involved with any of that stuff, or have you kept up with it?
I have not watched it. I watched it a couple of times. I thought they were behind the curve, because they got to get into quantum physics to understand that stuff, and I know they're capable of it. But I've been with a lot of production companies, and I've gotten out of a lot of production companies because they have to control the narrative. Production companies are out there to get whatever somebody wants, a network or something. They want a certain theme. Okay, you don't want to show, this, that, or the other, because that's not what we want. So they will take a week's worth of filming with you and not use it, just because it's not what they're trying to find. But they might take out a few words just to patch it in to create their narrative. And that's what I liked about Portlock. When I went up there, the production crew that was up there were honest. They weren't trying to put us into words or nothing like that. They just was doing a good job, and they weren't manipulating things. When I finally seen the episode, it was me.
Which
and
episode? What show was that?
Alaska Killer Bigfoot.
Okay. I've seen that.
It was a high dollar production. I mean, they spent a lot of money. This place is way back in the middle of nowhere, and they had to barge a bunch of yurts in their houses, and diesel and generators. My gosh. I talked to the guy who was in Homer, who was kind of the liaison between what's going on, got the helicopter to take us out. I say us, I was by myself in the helicopter. Well, the pilot was there. Just me and him. But it was fun. But they just took us one in at a time, and I was there for a few days, and I liked it. It was really. I think they do have something going on there, and I don't say that lightly. I do think that. But they have never gone back, I don't think, and I don't know if they will. The production company called me, if we can get the funding and the demographic is large enough, would you go back in? And I said, yeah, I'll go back in. As long as I can get a helicopter in, because it takes hours and hours to get boats around there with all that barging and stuff and all that. But I don't know what got me off on that. It was a lot of fun. And it was interesting to get their take on it.
How many shows have you been on? A lot, or is it just a few? Have you been on a good bit?
I've been on a few. Oh, I don't know. I don't count them. I've got a company now trying to do a episode on the Sierra Camp, and they're interviewing me in Oregon here in a few weeks to get some more B-roll. But I've been on a lot of them, but this one ought to be the best one. They're incredible people. I've been on with them before, and they're honest people, and they're going to do a good job, I think. So they've already created some pretty good stuff. So I'll go with them. I've been down in Burbank, California quite a bit. There's people stroking me, and I say that because they want to tell me what to say and tell me what to do. And I'm not that way. I just want to say what I want to say. And I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody. I just want to get the word that I believe is truth out. My truth. We'll have our truth.
And where does artificial intelligence tie into all this? I know you have a chapter of Wolf in Sheep's Clothing.
That's the big one. That is the big one. Artificial intelligence is going to get way out of hand real quick. When I say wolf in sheep's clothing, that's kind of what it is. Everybody's going to depend on it, and yet it's going to control everything. And if we don't learn how to control it, which it's almost out of the bag already, I don't think we're going to be able to control it. When they start creating their own species, which that's what they're going to do, when they can learn to transfer, get consciousness put into an artificial body, that's when humanity's in trouble. Especially if you take the artificial body, because they can transfer your consciousness, your etherical part, into an AI body. You could live for 1,000 years with the brain you got now, and more. Wouldn't that be something? But that's scary if you think about it. That's only going to allow you to ever elevate to no more than the fifth or sixth dimension. And we're scheduled and we're made to be in the ninth dimensional. We live in 3 dimensions now. That's where I think Tesla's 3, 6, and 9 came in. You want to understand the universe, understand the significance of 3, 6, and 9. Now, a lot of people got their theories about that. My theory is we have to live in a 3rd dimensional environment to get into anything out of this. You don't learn what you're supposed to learn in 3 dimensions, you're going to have to do it again somewhere, some planet, somewhere, maybe here. But you got to learn. And you got to learn what love and compassion is all about, because that's what the universe is for. That's the core of the universe right there. And then you can go to the 6th dimension, and that's where a lot of aliens exist now, in the 5th and 6th dimension. I think the Earth is trying to, the human residents, trying to evolve into a 5th dimensional environment. But we're doomed. I say doomed. We're scheduled and we're made to go to the 9th dimensional. That's the Kunef, that's the Anunnaki. And that's just what I think, because that's who made us in their image. And they are the gods, Elohim, which is specified hundreds of times, not thousands of times in the cuneiform text, oldest known text, 3400 BCE. And when you start getting that out, it's all in the plural form. And somehow through the ages, different people. And by the way, the Hebrew Bible's got its core out of the cuneiform text. All languages, written languages that came from that, they say. And if we learn to delve into that and start seeing what's really going on, Elohim, God, it's always in the plural form. Yet it's been translated in singular form where it fit with somebody's parameters up here to fit with what story they're trying to tell and what control they're trying to get. I don't mean to come down on religions, but it's a form of control.
Definitely. I know with artificial intelligence that there's an influx of the, Bigfoot pictures that aren't real and, cryptids and things. There's a lot more fake stuff. I know I can't even post like a Muppets, like let's say so they have these funny things where they take the Muppets and like do Muppets Texas Chainsaw Massacre or Muppets Friday the 13th, and AI makes like a little pictures of the story that's funny. I posted stuff like that on my Facebook, and people will go crazy protesting AI, like post pictures, no AI, like they go crazy. I was like, man, come on, I understand it some, but I posted some Muppets.
Let me tell you what I'm looking for. I'm searching for someone right now. I'm searching for someone who knows an AI form or technology that can listen to my sounds and translate them. Because it seems like languages can't. People have called me and said, I know what they're saying, but they all tell me something different, so how do you know who to believe? I want to know what these things were talking to me about that night. I've got the tape, I've got the sounds from 72, 74. I'd be glad to turn over to AI so if anybody out there knows of a quality AI program right now, I'd like to hear about it. And by the way, my website's ronmorehead.com.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to, give an AI all those sounds and see what its output is with it somehow? I don't know.
Yeah, I tried one or two, and they come back with what language you want to translate it into. They have to know the language. I'm trying to find something that doesn't have to have a language, because this is an unknown language, according to the cryptozoologist.
There was an
And
interest. Yeah, that would be interesting for sure to see that. You would think someone's done it by now, but I guess they haven't, or not that I know of anyway. There was an interesting documentary I saw on Amazon recently with the Haunting Lodge. The Haunting Lodge, and it was about a lodge that had a lot of paranormal stuff going on, and they brought a psychic in that seemed pretty like she knew what she was doing, but something about, she called them the tall ones and the short ones, and the tall ones looked like Bigfoot and the short ones looked like little weird aliens. But it was on Amazon and pretty interesting if anybody's looking for something interesting. The Haunting Lodge. I saw that recently. It's hard to find good ones that you can the missing 411 UFO thing, that was pretty crazy. Did you get to see that one by David, the UFO one? It's with Bruce McAdoo and all that.
Oh yeah,
Bruce
well, I was in that one. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And it's been a while since I've seen it. One of the craziest stories in it was how the aliens, like the UFOs or whatever, took that one guy, and he thinks they put him back because he had a surgery. Like, I don't know if it was a hysterectomy. No, I don't know. I don't remember what it was, but some kind of surgery he had about his reproduction, and they like put him back. Like, they dropped him off. That's what I've wondered with my testicular cancer. Like, the UFOs get you and say, "Oh, testicular cancer, we're throwing back." But if you're okay, do they take you and like haul you off to a breeding planet? That's the scary thing. But there was some story where he said they put him back because he had something like that. I can't remember what the surgery was, but it was a pretty famous UFO case of a guy that got taken that's in that documentary. That's pretty interesting. But I can't remember the case or anything. I know there's a story in there about an invisible like barrier or something someone kept running into in the woods. That was pretty interesting, like an invisible.
Well, me. I did. I've had that happen to me.
Like a barrier.
Yeah, it was an invisible barrier. Me and Warren Johnson went out one night. One of these things was mouthing off out there behind a tree, and we thought, if we jump out there right quick, we'll see it run away. Because kind of bright night, 8,400 feet, the moon's out, it's bright, and so we decided we'd jump out there and start walking up towards that tree. We'll see it run away. Well, we jumped out there and started walking up towards that tree. It didn't run away. We got within about 10, 15 feet from that tree, and we both just got froze with something. And I refer to it like a force field in Star Trek or something, because we weren't talking to each other, nothing. He just looked over me and said, "I can't go any further." I said, "I can't either. You can go backwards, but you can't go forward anymore." And so we decided to just turn around and go back, because whatever it was, didn't run away, and it was there. Went back in the shelter. As soon as we got back in the shelter, it started mouthing off again. So it was playing with us, I think. I brought that up to a scientist one time years ago, and he said, "Well, it's probably infrasound or pheromones." At the time, I thought, well, pheromones only work within the same species, so it must be infrasound, because infrasound does affect humans. That's what elephants use. That's what giraffes use. Tigers will use that. It's a sound that you don't hear, but it definitely affects you. I think Hitler was using that to control some crowds in World War II. But anyway, I kind of think it was infrasound, because that can paralyze you. Tigers will scream like that sometimes to get freeze and prey.
Do y'all do a lot of?
We were recording infrasound at the time. You have to have a special unit to do that. All we carried up there was cassettes.
Did you do a lot of gifting? Is there certain things you do when you go out there, like with gifting or anything like that?
Yeah, we started doing that. Because they were enjoying our food when we left it out. And I know they gift us. I don't know, I've written about this too. And we collect these pine cones in this old tub that we had, and we started fires within our stove. And one day we all went out for a walk, came back, and the bucket we had was full of pine cones. And we find tracks around our horses when we leave them in the camp, just go walking. We spend a day, just take a day pack and go walking, looking for something. We weren't hunting because I stopped hunting years ago because I didn't like killing anything. I have a theory about what all these species are here on Earth for. So how we're supposed to respond to them. However, I don't like spiders. I can tell you that. Don't like them.
Was there anything you've heard of food-wise that they like more than other things? I've always heard like pancakes and peanut butter. That's the only thing I've ever heard. But is there anything in particular that they like more, like food-wise?
Oh, I don't know. We didn't try that stuff. We just left whatever we was eating. They'd eat whatever we ate. And except for one night, we left some. Well, they are in a way. We left out some meat that was a little tainted from a couple weeks before we'd been up there. Thinking, they're like a bear, they'll just eat anything. A bear would eat it. And we left a jar of some hot peppers by accident. Well, they came in that night and started screaming around like they did. And next morning we found the pepper jar was empty. And the meat had been buried in a pile of dirt. We had dug a hole earlier for that, our trash to go into. And there was a big handprint on the outside of it. Got a picture of that too. Don't know what they thought about the peppers, but I'm sure they got burnt and they didn't come back anymore that whole week. We were up there.
Bad
So
meat.
I think if you're gonna give them food, give them good food. Yeah, they do. I hear like peanut butter, and of course, we left peanut butter out up there sometimes. But we like to. That's why we haul barrels in on our mules and ring barrels so we could store stuff up there. And we store peanut butter up there too, but we didn't usually leave that out for them but I've heard they like it. But again, in those days, we didn't know who liked what or what was going on. We underestimated what we're dealing with at the time.
Well, we got about 8 minutes or so, and then we got a 5-minute countdown. Is there anything you'd like to ask Wham before we get going to the final round?
No, actually, you've kind of covered it all. I mean, I just have been enjoying listening to Ron talk. I was just thinking about how much our conversations have changed a little bit since the last time you were on, and also just how much the conversation around all of the implications of Bigfoot have changed. I mean, the reason I say that is because I think about my friend Gail Beatty here in the Mid-Hudson Valley, as a Bigfoot researcher here. And when I first connected with her, which would have been it'd be almost 12, 13 years ago, she was still very much in the kind of literal camp, of Bigfoot. But the experiences and sort of the attending experiences around it, not just the Bigfoot experiences themselves, but the experiences of light and sound, and the fact that she took ghost hunting equipment out into the field and got EVP in areas where Bigfoot has been seen. It sort of changed her approach, and so she's kind of been drifting more towards a more spiritual approach. It's changed how she interacts with the natural world. It's very interesting. If you kind of follow the clues that the phenomena gives you, that's kind of where you end up going into these deeper places. That's.
Yeah, I think more and more people are getting into that too. Some of these conferences I'm at have thousands instead of hundreds anymore, and a lot of people are being drawn into this the phenomena that's going on around these things. And the most important thing I say is, remember, we're not shortchanged as humans. We have everything they have. We just have not evolved into it. We haven't learned how to become one with the oneness that we all are. We're all part of a collective consciousness that exists in the universe, and we've all been severed from that, and we have to learn. And people have been trying to teach us for 100 years, hundreds of years, how to connect back to it. But I think we have to do that on our own. That's part of our karma. What we have to learn is connecting back to the universe, the God, if you have it, or whatever is out there, because it's all. Now, somebody up there herding sheep, I can tell you that. Don't think. And I don't want to herd sheep anyway when I get out of this body.
Definitely. That's one of the big things when I was telling you about seeing the beings of light and how that ties into quantum physics. It was almost like, well, it was like that, like God or Great Spirit was showing me that to alleviate the worry. Because when I've seen those things, it was like something I would say was touching me on the head and showing me. And I know in shamanism they call it seeing, but you could feel it. And then like let's say I would see those beings in the heavens from my back porch when I lived on Silver Lake out here, where I saw the light beings, and it would be like something was showing me like a force. And then you would go out later and look, and it would be dull, and you'd be like, well, where's the hand on my head? It's gone. I don't see anything anymore. It's dull. The universe, out there looked just dull and cloudy. But when I would see that stuff, it was like something just going, here, see. It's a seeing. I like that from shamanism. It's seeing.
Those kind of things open up your mind, don't they? They
Definitely.
kind of stretch you out there. Yeah, that's what I say to a lot of these people too. They say, "Oh, they're just this, they're just that." I've seen them like that. Well, sure, that's all you're going to see, maybe. But until they have an experience like I've had, like you've had, like someone has had, they're never going to get out of that box. And that's okay. I mean, if they want to stay there, they can. If they want to graduate, then they get out of the box.
And I know, I know with the UFOs of now Robert Salas, that Air Force guy that wrote the book about the UFO shutting down the missiles and stuff. We see that with a lot of this stuff, with them intervening on that level. We only got a little bit left, but an intervention. Are there any big levels like that where they intervene? What are some of the ways that they do intervene?
Well, that way is one. They love this earth. They want this earth. They don't want us to destroy it. And we're going to destroy it. We could set off these bombs and stuff. But when they really came to focus was after the bombs were set off in Japan. That's when the UFO came in. That's when the aliens started coming to the planet and really concerned about what we're doing to this planet, because they want it. They want us. They want to save it. It's a special place. I mean, you think about it, there's no other place like this in the galaxy. I mean, in the universe, solar system. And anyway, it's amazing the times we're living in. I'm glad I'm still around right now to witness a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, it's been crazy with the sun. That's been doing crazy stuff. Interesting how it zaps us. And
it's going to get more crazy too. It's going to be more crazy too, Jeff, if people don't start waking up to what's really trying to happen now. AI is a big one. We didn't talk about it near enough, but AI is a big one. And I think that is the wolf in sheep's clothing. Will take over. And we got to learn who we are as humans so we can handle all this.
Definitely. Well, Ron, it's been a great show. I love your work. I love the book. Give us out your links one more time for everyone. Your link.
It's ronmorehead.com. No space, just ronmorehead.com. 10. And that's my link into my books and my CDs both. And they're all downloadable, or you can get the paperback.
We appreciate it so much. Thanks, Ron. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good to meet you, Wham.
Thank you. It was a great discussion.
Take care.
Have a good weekend. And everybody, next week is Wallace Wagner, UFOs in the Bible, Crossing the Crevices, his book, and he'll be getting into biblical stuff and UFOs and things like that. He's coming back on. And I'm still scheduling. We have one lady called the Puck Wookie Whisperer, which can't remember her name right now, but that's I'm trying to get you for that one, Wham. The Pukwudgie Whisperer.
Oh,
So,
nice.
yeah, that's an interesting name, the Pukwudgie Whisperer.
Yeah. I wonder if she really knows where Pukwudgie comes from. But anyway.
We'll find out. We'll find out for sure. And we're going to be watching some more Twin Peaks in a little bit. So I think I'm on like the 4th episode. It's interesting how those CDs are set up. I guess there was like a pilot episode at first.
Right. There was. Yeah, there was. Yeah. Yeah.
That's like the first disc, and then I guess the next disc is like 4 episodes, because they called that first episode on the second disc number 1 too. So I guess the pilot was the first disc, and then it had the other episode. So they canceled it after what, 2 seasons? But did they finish the story, or you got to watch the movie, right?
You got to watch the movie. I'm not going to tell you.
I've seen the movie, but I didn't watch the episodes in the order I should have. So, but I'm doing that now. So we're reliving it. We're going through it. We just saw the episode with the little dwarf guy in the nether realm place.
You are the Red Room?
Yeah. Definitely weird. Definitely some weirdness.
Well, it's David Lynch.
Yeah, but it's definitely good. I like it. I like Kyle MacLachlan too. He was just in the Fallout show that it's based on a video game about these people that come up from a bunker, and it's like mutations and Mad Max, but it's kind of funny too. But he was the dad in that. But you don't see him in many things, and the things you do see him in are usually pretty good. He's good at picking stuff out. Kyle MacLachlan. I'm trying to think who else. I always forget who else. I got to send an updated schedule to everybody. But let me look real quick. We got about 3 minutes. See, where is it? I'm looking for it. Schedule. I always forget. I know Wallace Wagner's next week. And then who's that Steven Snyder's coming back for a Kubrick show on the 31st. He got a Stanley Kubrick book. And then Jim Willis, 7th. And then this schedule, I got to send y'all an updated one because it don't have everybody on it. So I got to look at that again. But I'll have to check out that book. I know I have that Kathy Moskowitz Strain book. You ever checked out any of her books? I have that Gods and Monsters.
I have, actually. Yes, I have. I think I have one of her books.
Yeah, I have that one. I have to see what else she has out there, but that's where I first kind of got into the native folklore and Bigfoot stuff. There's a lot of good stuff like that in it. The whole books. There's one where Coyote and the Hairy Man hang out. I forget the story, but that's there's a few of those Coyote Hairy Man stories and the folklores. I have to dig those out sometime. Those are pretty interesting. And then I know in that Dreamkeeper movie, the lady was trying to get Coyote's balls and cook them. And the fighter guy was with him, Iktomi or something like that. That was his wife. And I guess Coyote ate the meal that they were supposed to eat, so she would get in trouble if she didn't have the meal. So she was going to cook his gonads. So he ran away. That was pretty good. But everybody, you listen to United Public Radio 107.7 FM New Orleans. Hope everybody has a good weekend. Thanks to Ron Morehead. Thanks to JoJo. And thanks, Wham. Everybody have a good weekend. Take care, everybody. Good night.
Good night.